يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما صلى الله على النبي الأمي وآله صلى الله عليه وسلم صلاة وسلاما عليك يا سيدي يا حبيبي يا رسول الله اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت يا حي يا قيوم تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا اللهم يا كريم أكرمنا بنور الفهم وأخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. ये चूँकि रमज़ान शरीफ का आखिरी अशरा है जिसमें जहन्नम से आज़ादी का परवाना हासिल करने के लिए हम और आप अल्लाह ताला की इबादत करते हैं, उसकी बारगाह में दुआ मांगते हैं। इसलिए दोज़ख क्या है और इसकी मौलाकिया क्या है, जहन्नम में कैसा अज़ाब गुनहगारों के लिए मुकर्रर कर रखा है, उसके बारे में चंद गुफ्तगू अहादीस और कुरान की आयतों की रोशनी में की जाएगी ताकि अल्लाह ताला हम सबको जहन्नम के आग से, जहन्नम के अज़ाब से बचाए और हम सबको ऐसे काम करने की तौफीक अता फरमाए जो हमें जन्नत में दाखिल करें और तमाम ऐसे अमल से बचने के अल्लाह ताला मुझे हम सब को बचने की तौफीक अता फरमाए कि जो हमें जहन्नम की तरफ ले जाए। बाहर शरीफ में उन्होंने तलखीस के साथ दोज़ख के सिलसिले में गुफ्तगू फरमाई है, इसलिए उसी किताब से इंशाल्लाह आज आपके सामने उसके बारे में गुफ्तगू की जाएगी। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। दोज़ख का बयान। ये एक मकान है कि उस क़हार व जब्बार के जलाल व क़हर का मज़हर है। जिस तरह उसकी रहमत व नेमत की इंतहा नहीं कि इंसानी ख़यालात व तसव्वुरात जहाँ तक पहुँचे वह एक शम्मा है उसकी बेशुमार नेमतों से, इसी तरह उसके ग़ज़ब व क़हर की कोई हद नहीं कि हर वो तकलीफ़ व अज़ियत के इदराक की जाए जिसको आदमी महसूस कर सके, एक अदना हिस्सा है उसके बेइंतहा अज़ाब का। Says Jahannam is a manifestation, the place where it will manifest a fraction of the anger and the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in dimensions, in the same way as we cannot enumerate and count the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever blessings we receive is but a fraction of the limitless blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the same way, whatever taklif, adiyya, whatever pain, difficulty, distress you feel is but a minute fraction from the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the adab of Jahannam. कुरान मजीद व अहादीस में जो उसकी सख्तियाँ मज़कूर हैं उनमें से कुछ इजमालन बयान करता हूँ कि मुसलमान देखें और उससे पनाह मांगे और उन आमाल से बचे जिनकी जज़ा जहन्नम है। The reason why he mentions this chapter here in Kitab Al-Aqaid is that people seek refuge with Allah from Jahannam. This is the last 10 days of Ramadan in which we seek refuge from Allah from Jahannam, from the adab of Jahannam. Allahumma ajirna min al-nar ya mujir ya mujir ya mujir. Allahumma a'tiq raqabana wa riqaba abaina wa ummahatina min al-nar. And also we refrain from, abstain and stay away from, distance ourselves completely from those actions which will lead a person to Jannah. As a consequence of these actions, a person will be cast into Jahannam by understanding the reality of Jahannam or a glimpse into the reality of punishment and the painful torment that the inmates of Jahannam will face. It gives us this incitement to stay away from the a'mal which take us towards Jahannam, and that we adopt the life and the good deeds that will take us towards Jannah, inshaAllah. कुरान करीम में बकसरत इरशाद हुआ, जहन्नम से बचो, दोज़ख से डरो। या अय्युहल्लज़ीना आमनू कू अनफुसकुम व अहलीकुम नारा वक़ूदुहा अन्नास वल हिजारा। ऐ ईमान वालो, अपने आप को, अपने घर वालों को जहन्नम की आग से बचाओ। Or you who believe, safeguard yourself And then your families from the fire of hell, whose fuel is what? Fuel isn't coal, isn't stones only, is what? Is people. الناس والحجارة. People and stones are the fuel of Jahannam that will ignite, that will increase the intensity of the heat of Jahannam. Jahannam will say, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allocate a number of people, assign a number of people, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have decreed an X number of people to go into Jahannam, Jahannam will then say, وَتَقُولُ هَلْ مِن مَزِيد, Ya Allah, kya aur bhi log hain? Are there any more? Asking for more people inside Jahannam. There won't be a single space in Jahannam, but that it will be filled. Or Allah Ta'ala इरशाद फरमाता है فَاتَّقُوا النَّارَ الَّتِي وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارُ أُعِدَّتْ لِلْكَافِرِينَ. इसमें भी अल्लाह ताला ने फरमाया, जहन्नम की आग से बचो, अपने आप को डराओ जहन्नम की आग से. This dunya is temporary. Okay? This dunya is finite. It is between two phases of non-existence. It didn't exist before, then it came into existence, then it will become non-existent again. Hence, to indicate how short this span of life is. But unfortunately, in this span of life, in this lifetime that a person has been given and rather entrusted as an amana by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in order for a person to sow the seeds, to harvest the crops in Jannah, inshallah azza wa jal, unfortunately people exploit and abuse the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, life being the foremost example of the blessing of Allah, in order to cast themselves in Jahannam. They are to blame. There is no one to blame but their own selves, as we'll hear later on. हमारे आका मौला सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि व आलिहि वसल्लम हमको सिखाने के लिए कसरत के साथ उससे पनाह मांगते थे. खुद नबी करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, हालांकि आपके नालैन शरीफ के सदक़ो तुफ़ैल कितने लोग जहन्नम से आज़ाद कर दिए जाए, लेकिन खुद नबी करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की ये कैफियत थी कि आप हर रोज, जैसे कि हदीस शरीफ में है, अन्नहु कान यतअव्वदु मिन अज़ाबिल क़ब्र व अज़ाब जहन्नम, नबी करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम बकसरत कब्र के अज़ाब से, जहन्नम के अज़ाब से अल्लाह ताला की पनाह मांगा करते थे. एक और रिवायत में है, वफ़ी रिवायतिन अन इब्न अब्बास अन्न रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम كان يعلمهم هذا الدعاء كما يعلمهم السورة من القرآن يقول قولوا اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من عذاب جهنم وأعوذ بك من عذاب القبر وأعوذ بك من فتنة المسيح الدجال وأعوذ بك من فتنة المحيا والممات. This is a dua which the Messenger ﷺ used to teach his companions with so much emphasis as he would teach them a surah of the Quran. يعني he sallallahu alayhi wasallam would make ihtimam to teach the companions this dua. What was this dua? Allahumma inna na'udhu bika min adhab jahannam. The first point of this dua is, O Allah, I seek refuge with you from the fire of Jahannam, from the torment, from the punishment of Jahannam, from the chastisement that will envelop people in Jahannam. And O Allah, وَأَعُوذُ بِكَ مِنْ عَذَابِ الْقَبْرِ, O Allah, I seek refuge with you from the torment of the grave. Because even prior to the adhab of Jahannam, there will be adhab al-qabr, which will reflect a person's life in this world. If a person was good, if a person kept his head down, kept his eye on the prize, which was Jannah and meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and his actions imitated his intentions accordingly, يعني he prayed his namaz on time, he gave his zakah, he performed hajj, he never delayed in fulfilling the obligations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he fulfilled the rights of Allah to the best of his ability and the rights of his servants, he never infringed on the rights of other people, then inshallah, even from the grave, from the onset of the life, of the next life, he will be given bliss and felicity, he will be given, subhanallah, the shade and the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A window or a door or a gate from Jannah will be open and the cool breeze will enter his grave. So he will already be in a gracious situation right from qabr. But as for those who took this life as, pastime, lahun la'ib, yes, entertainment, indulge themselves in pursuit of their carnal desires, they give preference to amassing wealth and accumulating money over salah. They compromise salah. They didn't compromise their time, they didn't compromise their life, they only compromised the religious injunctions which Allah made binding on that person, missed their salah, missed giving their zakah, omitted the fara'id and the wajibat which Allah had made fard and wajib in the Quran and the Sunnah. From qabr what will happen, a door of Jahannam will be open and they will bear the unbearable heat of Jahannam right from the onset of the next life, which is from the qabr. But the punishment thereafter is going to be severe. وَلَعَذَابُ الْآخِرَةِ أَخْزَى. وَنَشْرُ more bitter than the punishment that anyone faces in the grave. Every moment a person draws himself closer to the plane of gathering, closer to the day of resurrection, closer to standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the severity of the punishment will increase accordingly. And then obviously you have the ultimate doomed place, Jahannam. And then the Prophet ﷺ used to say, O companions, also seek refuge with Allah. وَأَعُوذُ بِكَ مِنْ فِتْنَةِ الْمَسِيحِ الدَّجَّالِ. I seek refuge with Allah from the fitna, from the dissension of the Messiah, the Antichrist, Ad-Dajjal. And I told you this before. The Prophet ﷺ said in one hadith, there is no fitna from the time of Adam alayhi salam until Yawm al-Qiyamah greater and more severe than the fitna of Dajjal. This fitna of Dajjal will not only envelop the people who are living, it will also envelop the people who are dead, who are in their graves. So don't let us think that we're going to be dead by that time. By the time Dajjal comes, obviously his fitna will encompass everyone and everything. وَأَعُوذُ بِكَ مِنْ فِتْنَةِ الْمَحْيَا وَالْمَمَاتِ. And oh Allah, I seek refuge with you from the fitna of those who are living and the fitna of those who are dead. This is in Sahih Muslim. So you can understand from this the importance of seeking refuge with Allah from adab of Jahannam. When you pray this dua, Subhana dhil mulki wal malakut, Subhana dhil izzati wal azamati wal haybati wal qudrati wal kibriyai wal jabarut, Subhana al-maliki al-hayy alladhi la yanam wa la yamut, Subuhun qudusun Rabbuna wa Rabbul malaikati wal ruh, Allahumma ajirna min al-nar, ya mujiru, ya mujiru, ya mujiru. Don't just say it like a verbal repetition of words. It should be with the mind and the body and the soul and the heart, most important. Because these are the very 10 days in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive and emancipate countless number of people from Jahannam who have already been assigned to go into Jahannam. Jahannam, entrance into Jahannam was made obligatory upon them, but because of the sincere tawbah, which is the key to emancipate and free yourself and gain independence from Jahannam, because of the sincere tawbah they did in these very days, and because it coincided with the blessed month of Ramadan, in which there is a downpour of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will free them from Jahannam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala write our names from those people who are freed from Jahannam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us an elevated station in Jannah al-Firdaus in the company of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Jahannam ke shirare ऊंचे ऊंचे महल्लों की बराबर उड़ेंगे, गोया जर्द ऊंटों की क़ितार के पैहम आते रहेंगे. Allah. इन्नहा तरमी बिशररिन कल-क़स्र कअन्नहु जिमालतुन सुफ़्र. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, gives us a glimpse in and illustrates to us what Jahannam will be. The scorching flames of Jahannam will be huge in size than sandy colored camels. That'll be one flame, in huge flames. Okay, moving upwards. Tarmi. Okay. Admi or patthar uska idhan hai. The fuel of Jahannam are human beings and stones and coal. ये जो दुनिया की आग है, उस आग के 70 जुज़ों में से एक जुज़ है. If the fire of Jahannam was to be divided into 70 fractions, 70 parts, this, the most intense fire that you can kindle and you can ignite in this world, is but a 70th part of the intensity that a person will feel from the fire of Jahannam. It is but a 70th part of the fire of Jahannam. And we can't even hold an ember in our hand. A matchstick that is ignited, that is light, we throw it away. We can't even touch it with our finger. But this is the fire of Jahannam, 70 times more in intensity, 70 times more in terms of severity than this fire of this world. जिसको सबसे कम दर्जे का अजाब होगा, उसे आग की जूतियां पहना दी जाएंगी, जिससे उसका दिमाग ऐसा खोलेगा जैसे तांबे की पतीली खोलती है। वो समझेगा कि सबसे ज्यादा अजाब उस पर हो रहा है, हालांकि उस पर सबसे ज्यादा हल्का है, सबसे हल्के दर्जे का जिस पर अजाब होगा। अल्लाह अकबर। The inmates of the hellfire, the one who shall be given the least punishment in the hellfire is that he shall be made to wear shoes made of the fire of Jahannam, by which his entire brain will boil, as a copper pot boils when you put it under the fire on a stove. A copper pot utensil that you put on the gas, you can't even touch it. His brain and his entire body will be ignited with the fire of Jahannam to an extent that his brain will start to boil. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will then ask him, Allah azza wa jalla उससे पूछेगा, अगर सारी ज़मीन तेरी हो जाए तो क्या इस अजाब से बचने के लिए तू सब फिदिया में दे देगा? If you were to be given all of the luxuries of this world, the entire world and what it comprises, as a ransom, that you give the entire world to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ransom, as a ransom, to spare yourself from the punishment of the hellfire, will you be doing that? Will you do that? Yes. The person will say, हाँ. फरमाएगा, जब तू पुश्ते आदम में था तो हमने इससे बहुत आसान चीज का हुक्म दिया था, कुफ्र न करना, मगर तूने न माना। अब तेरी जमीन भी कोई काम की नहीं, तेरा फिद्या भी कोई काम का नहीं। When you were in this world, we didn't ask you to give the entire world for us as a fidya. All we said was believe. All we said was have unshakable belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All we said, all we required from you was affirm your belief in Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Believe Islam as a true religion. But you were indulged, you were intoxicated in the love of this world. All you saw was money, all you saw was fame, all you saw was fortune, all you saw were your followers, and they hindered you from accepting faith, and hence you will taste the punishment in the hellfire. Nothing, no ransom will be accepted. Many verses of the Quran in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the kuffar will say, if only we would give a ransom to spare ourselves from the adab of Jahannam, Allah will say, not a single fidya will be accepted from them. जहन्नम की आग 1000 बरस तक धोंकाई गई, जलाई गई, यहाँ तक कि सुर्ख हो गई, फिर 1000 बरस और यहाँ तक कि सफेद हो गई, फिर 1000 बरस और यहाँ तक कि सियाह हो गई, तो अब वो नीली सियाह है. The fire of Jahannam was ignited for 1000 years consecutively until it became glowing red, and then it was further ignited for 1000 years until it became glowing white. But then it was ignited for a further 1000 years until now it is completely, utterly pitch black. There is no light in Jahannam. And the manner in which the inmates of Jahannam will be punished in Jahannam is that they will be locked in coffins, a sunduq, which will be locked in another coffin, which will be locked in another coffin, which will be put in another coffin, and that will be tied with shackles and chains, and there will be complete darkness. Okay. इसमें रोशनी नाम की कोई चीज नहीं है. अल्लाहु अकबर. فهي سوداء مظلمة لا يضيء لهبها. जिब्राइल अमीन अलैहिस्सलातु वस्सलाम ने नबी करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम से कसम खाकर अर्ज की थी कि अगर जहन्नम से सुई के नाके की बराबर खोल दिया जाए तो तमाम जमीन वाले सब के सब उसकी गर्मी से मर जाए. और कसम खाकर कहा कि अगर जहन्नम का कोई दारोगा, यानी दारोगा से मुराद मुहाफिज, निगरान, अहले दुनिया पर जाहिर हो तो ज़मीन के रहने वाले कुल के कुल उसकी हैबत से, उसके खौफ से मर जाएं। और कसम खाकर बयान किया कि अगर जहन्नमियों की जंजीर की एक कड़ी दुनिया के पहाड़ों पर रख दी जाए तो कांपने लगे और उन्हें करार न हो, यहां तक कि नीचे की जमीन तक धंस जाए। Sayyidina Jibril Amin alayhi salatu wa taslim, the archangel, he swore in the name of Allah and he said, by Allah, if the extent of the eye of a needle of Jahannam, of the fire of Jahannam, to what extent? To the extent of the eye of a needle was to be exposed to this world, not a single living object would remain. Everything would perish. The eye of a needle, to that extent. And then he further says, if any keeper, gatekeeper of Jahannam was to expose himself to the people of this world, not a single person will remain alive. They would die because of the awe, because of the khawf of the countenance of the angel. The appearance of the angel would be so frightening that people would just completely die. Not even faint, not even fall unconscious, they would die. And then he further says, if even a chain, yeah, you know when you have a chain, it has many wires and metals that interlock. If one part of it was to be put on a mountain, then the entire mountains would split asunder. They would be reduced to mere dust because of the weight of these chains, because of the weight of this fraction, of this bracket. And then he says, ये दुनिया की आग जिसकी गर्मी और तेजी से कौन वाकिफ नहीं कि बाज मौसम में तो उसके करीब जाना शाक होता है, फिर भी ये आग खुदा से दुआ करती है कि उसे जहन्नम में फिर न ले जाए. This very fire of this dunya that we cannot bear to hold in our hands, that we cannot even bear to be close to or within close proximity, and this very fire of this dunya seeks refuge with Allah every single day. Oh Allah, don't make me return back to the fire of Jahannam. मगर ताज्जुब है इंसान से कि जहन्नम में जाने का काम करता है और उस आग से नहीं डरता जिससे आग भी डरती और पनाह मांगती है. How astonishing, however, is the state of human beings, of mankind, that the very fire of this world is seeking refuge with Allah to be returned back to that fire of the hellfire, of Jahannam. Yet we are doing those things which will result and consequent in us being cast in the pits of the hellfire. दोज़ख की गहराई को खुदा ही जाने कि कितनी गहरी है. हदीस शरीफ में है कि अगर पत्थर की चट्टान जहन्नम के किनारे से उसमें फेंकी जाए तो 70 बरस में भी तह तक न पहुंचेगी. No one knows the true depth of Jahannam, how deep it is. In one hadith it says, if a rock was to be cast from the brink of Jahannam from the top, even after 70 years of the descension of that rock or that stone, it will still not reach the surface, it will still not reach the bottom of Jahannam. और अगर इंसान के सर बराबर शीशे का गोला आसमान से जमीन को फेंका जाए तो रात आने से पहले जमीन तक पहुंच जाए, हालांकि 500 बरस की राह है. फिर उसमें मुख्तलिफ तबकात व वादी और कुएं हैं. बाज वादी ऐसी हैं कि जहन्नम भी हर रोज 70 मरतबा या ज्यादा उनसे पनाह मांगता है. अल्लाहु अकबर. एक वादी है जहन्नम में वादिन फी जहन्नम ततअव्वदु मिनहु जहन्नम कुल्ल यौमिन 70 मररा. एक रिवायत में वादिन फी जहन्नम यतअव्वदु मिनहु जहन्नम कुल्ल यौमिन 400 मररा. There are certain valleys and certain grades in Jahannam from which even Jahannam seeks refuge with Allah every single day 400 times. It says, Oh Allah, don't let me have this valley within me. Oh Allah, I seek refuge with you from the evil that is contained within that valley. ये खुद उस मकान की हालत है, अगर उसमें और कुछ अजाब न होता तो यही क्या कम था। मगर कुफार की सरजरिश के लिए और तरह तरह के अजाब मुहैया किए। लोहे के ऐसे भारी गुर्जों से फरिश्ते मारेंगे कि अगर कोई गुर्ज जमीन पर रख दिया जाए तो तमाम जिन्नो इंस जमा होकर उसको उठा नहीं सकते। The inmates of the hellfire will be struck with huge hammers, the weight of which shall be that if one of these hammers and these pickaxes will be placed on this world, if the entire humanity, if the entire mankind and the jinn were to come together to collectively pick up and carry this hammer, they will never be able to do so. And this is one hammer that will be struck on the heads of these people who shall be cast in Jahannam. बुख्ती ऊंट की गर्दन बराबर बिच्छू और अल्लाह जाने किस कदर बड़े सांप कि अगर एक मर्तबा काट ले तो उसकी सोजिश दर्द बेचैनी 1000 बरस तक रहे। There shall be scorpions in Jahannam equivalent to the size of Bactrian camels, and Allah knows how many and how great the serpents and snakes will be. A single sting of which the venomous sting of the snake of Jannah will be to such an extent that its effect will be felt for 1000 years thereafter. And it continues later on, and we shall continue with this inshallah. وَمَا تَوْفِيقِ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ وَإِلَيْهِ أُنِيبُ। अल्लाह ताला हम सबको जहन्नम की आग से बचाए और अल्लाह ताला हम सबको नेकियां करने की तौफीक अता फरमाए और हर उस काम से अल्लाह ताला हमें हम तमाम उम्मत मुस्लिमा को बचने की तौफीक अता फरमाए जो जहन्नम